There are places in this world where time seems to breathe slower, where the wind carries not just the scent of salt and pine, but whispers of lives that once were. The coast of Eldenmare was one such place. Waves sighed against the rocks like tired old souls, and gulls wheeled above the mist, calling into the endless blue. And in that quiet town, where the nights were long and the hearts of people even longer, stood a weathered lighthouse. Its white paint flaked by storms, its windows fogged by the ghosts of years. It was said that the light of Eldenmare had never gone dark, not once, in over 100 years. Even when warships had blackened the horizon, even when tempests clawed the sky into ribbons, the lantern always burned. His back was straight as the tower he guarded, his eyes quiet but carrying 1,000 unshed stories. Every night when the last of the village lamps dimmed, he would climb those iron stairs, one careful step after another, until he reached the lantern room. There, beneath the old brass dome, he would polish the glass, trim the wick, and light the flame that watched over the sea. Children whispered that he could speak to the ocean. Old women said he had once been in love with a woman who drowned. But the truth was this. Every night when Elias lit the flame, he whispered the same words, soft as a prayer. The memory of her came to him not as a picture, but as a feeling, a warmth that once filled every dark corner of his heart. Her hair had smelled of wind and oranges, her hands always smudged with color. She had been sitting on the rocks, sketching the tide when the waves turned furious. That laugh, it became the light that burned inside him. Marin painted the sea, and Elias, who had long thought the world too vast and cruel, began to see it through her eyes, as something sacred, tender, alive. He had once believed that the ocean only took. It happened on a night much like any other. The sky was swollen with clouds, the wind restless. The waves struck the rocks like fists of thunder. The lighthouse shook under the weight of the wind, and in the distance, through the whirling rain, he saw something that froze his blood. A small boat, torn and flailing, its lantern flickering against the dark. He ran to the cliff's edge, shouting her name. They found pieces of her boat 3 days later, shattered wood and a fragment of canvas, painted with the start of a sunrise. Her body was never recovered. He kept the light burning, night after night, as if she might still see it, as if it could guide her home through the veil between worlds. The villagers pitied him but learned not to disturb his ritual. Some said grief had made him half mad. Others said love had made him immortal. Years passed. The world outside Eldenmare changed. Ships grew steel hulls, the young moved to cities, and the old stories faded. But Elias remained, a sentinel of memory. As Elias climbed the tower, his lantern in hand, he noticed something strange. A faint light, far out on the water. He took up the spyglass from the shelf and peered through the rain-smeared glass. And then he heard it. Faint, melodic, almost like laughter carried on the wind. It was her voice. For a moment, the rain parted, and he thought he saw her. A figure standing upon the water, or perhaps within it, haloed in soft light. Her hair drifted like seagrass, her eyes calm and endless. The sea returned to its restless motion, the light swallowed by mist. When dawn came, the world looked the same, and yet something deep inside him had shifted. The following days brought strange happenings. The sea grew unusually calm, the air thick with an almost electric quiet. And in the village below, children began to dream of a woman in blue calling them to the shore. They spoke of souls bound by promises not yet kept. And it did. Faintly at first, then brighter. Always in the same place, always pulsing like a heartbeat. He began to keep a journal again, his handwriting uneven but steady. One evening, as he closed the book, a knock sounded at his door. Rare for someone who lived alone on the cliffs. When he opened it, he found a young woman standing there, soaked by the rain, a travel bag slung over her shoulder. She looked no older than 20, her eyes the color of dawn on wet sand. "I'm looking for the keeper of the light. My name is Lira," she said. She hesitated, then reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn object, a pendant shaped like a seashell, rimmed with silver. The very same one Marin had always worn. "Where did you get this?" he whispered. "Only that one day, I would find the light that never sleeps, and when I did, I'd understand." His heart raced, memories flooding him like a rising tide. Maren had been gone 20 years, but the girl standing before him had her same eyes, her same calm, searching expression. For a long moment he could only stand there, tears blurring the world. Then he whispered, almost to himself, "You've found it, child. You've found me." Lira stood beside him, her hand resting on the glass, her face illuminated by the flame. Outside, the sea rose in silver waves, the same glow pulsing once again on the horizon, stronger now, as if welcoming them both. Elias's voice broke with awe. "It's a promise, Lira." The two of them stood side by side in the lantern-esque glow, the keeper and the daughter of the lost, waiting for the light to reveal what destiny had yet to tell. The storm passed, but it left behind a strange stillness, the kind that hums beneath the skin, as if the world is holding its breath before revealing something sacred. Elias awoke to the sound of gulls and the faint tapping of rain on glass. The air smelled of salt and new beginnings. Downstairs, Lira had already lit the stove, her hair tied back, her presence filling the room with quiet warmth. For a moment, he simply watched her. It was uncanny. The way she moved, the way she looked out toward the sea as if listening to it. The resemblance to Maren was not just in her face, it was in her soul. Lira noticed his gaze and smiled. "You're staring," she said gently. "I'm remembering," Elias replied. "Sometimes the past echoes so loudly, it feels like it's speaking right through the present." She nodded. "Then maybe that's why I came here, to listen to what he has been waiting to be heard." Lira helped with the chores, polishing the lantern glass, cleaning the brass fittings, recording the tides. "I'm standing in the middle of the sea, but the water doesn't pull me down." Elias listened in silence. It was a phrase Maren used to whisper when she spoke about painting, about finding beauty in the in-between places. Elias and Lira climbed the tower together, wind whipping around them, the lantern's flame reflecting in their eyes. From the balcony, they saw it, a path of golden fire stretching across the waves, leading far into the horizon. At dawn, they prepared a small boat, the same one Elias had used years ago for supply runs, now old but sturdy. Before setting out, he turned to the tower, to the light that had been his companion through decades of solitude. "Keep watch for us," he murmured. The journey was both terrifying and wondrous. The farther they went, the calmer the sea became. Lira trailed her fingers in the water. Elias nodded, unable to find words. He could feel it too. The pulse of something ancient beneath them, something that remembered every story ever told upon these waves. As they moved deeper into the light, the horizon began to blur. She appeared not as a ghost, but as something beyond understanding. A figure woven of mist and memory, standing atop the water as if it were glass. Her hair flowed like liquid moonlight, and her eyes carried the depth of every ocean. Elias's voice broke as he whispered, "Maren, all these years you kept the light burning." And I did. Every brushstroke, every dream, every breath I never finished, I gave them to her so she might find you and bring you peace. "You're my mother," but Maren only smiled. "The lantern must rest. Its flame has guided me home. Now it must guide others." Lira's eyes filled with tears. "Passing it on? You have the gift to remind them that even the smallest light can find its way through any storm." And with that, she was gone. The lighthouse stood waiting, its flame dim but steady. Elias and Lira walked up the path in silence. The air was still humming faintly, as if the sea itself was singing them home. That night, they relit the lantern together, this time not as keeper and stranger, but as family. The flame danced within the glass, brighter than ever before. As the beam swept across the waves, Elias spoke softly, the words carrying on the wind. For her, for all of them, for anyone still searching in the dark. Lira smiled through tears. "She's still here, isn't she?" He nodded. "Always, in the light, in us." Years passed and Eldenmare changed once again. Ships came and went, children grew into adults, and the world turned its endless wheel. But still the lighthouse burned, a steadfast heart on the edge of the world. Travelers who passed by would sometimes claim they saw two figures tending the light, one old, one young, and a third, a woman of gentle radiance, standing just beyond the glass, smiling. And on especially clear nights, the sea itself seemed to glow faintly, as if remembering. When Elias's final day came, it was quiet and peaceful. Lira found him seated by the lantern, the sunrise spilling gold across his face. His eyes were closed, a faint smile resting there, as though he had merely stepped into another room. The flame burned bright beside him. Lira did not weep. Instead, she touched the old brass railing, lifted her gaze to the horizon, and whispered the same words her mother once did. "For you, my love. May this light find you, wherever you are." And when she lit the flame that night, the sea responded, glowing softly, like the world itself was saying thank you. Epilogue: The Lantern's Promise. If you ever find yourself wandering by the cliffs of Eldenmare, you may see a light that never sleeps. Some say it's just the old keeper's legacy. Others say it's something more, the echo of a promise made and kept across lifetimes. But if you listen closely, you'll hear the sea whispering the truth. Love never ends. It only changes form. From flame to memory, from sorrow to song, from one heart to another. And that is the lantern's promise, that no matter how dark the night, some lights never die.